So in your notebook, divide your paper into 3 columns and label your 3 columns. So if I am in point slope form, you should be able to look at the point slope form and tell me what is the slope of this line. 1/4. You should be able to look at this form and tell me what is 1 point on that line. Do you know that the point on that line would be +8, -3? X comes first, it changes signs, then the Y, the X and the Y change signs when you pull them out of the equation. The reason for that is the negatives in the equation to start with. Is that the only point on the line? No, there's lots of points on the line. So to change it to slope-intercept form, this is the first thing that we need to do. What does that mean? Distribute. And I'm going to write it over here because I am changing it into slope-intercept form. So we're still going to have the y plus 3. And then we're going to have 1/4 times x minus 1/4 times 8. Now, I wrote the distributive property out step by step so that you can see, hopefully follow all the steps. So this is y plus 3 equals 1/4 x minus, how many times does 4 go into 8? 2. So the 4 goes into the 8. The 4, because it's the denominator, denominators mean divide. 4 goes into 8 2 times. Now, I know some of you are not very good with your fractions, and so if you're not very good with your fractions, I would prefer you to be able to do that without a calculator. But if you can't, use a calculator. Now, in y equals mx plus b form, the y is by itself, not y plus 3, but y by itself. So what do I do to get rid of the plus 3? The opposite of plus 3 is, if I subtract 3 on this side of the equation, what do I have to do over here? Do you know why I'm lining up the subtract 3 with the 2? This one doesn't have a variable, that one doesn't have a variable. Those are like terms. I subtracted 3 because a -3 cancels out a +3. Minus 5. -2 minus 3 more makes a -5. In slope-intercept form, you should be able to look at this equation and that fast tell me what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. When you look at that equation, do you see the slope of 1/4? Do you see the y-intercept of -5? Okay, then take that form and change it to standard form. In standard form, there can be no fractions. So I need to get rid of the fractions. You get rid of a fraction by multiplying by the denominator. And if I multiply by 4 on this side, I have to multiply by 4 on the other side. So this is 4y. And the 4 multiplies by the 1/4. And the 4 multiplies by the 5. I'm doing this distributive property out step by step because some people are having trouble with the fraction part. 4y equals. Cancel that out. That's why I did it, to cancel that out, so that I don't have any fractions anymore. Now, in standard form, the x and the y are on the left-hand side of the equation. Is this on the left-hand side of the equation? It needs to be on the other side of the equation. What can I do to move that to the other side of this equal sign? The opposite of positive x is, so that will cancel out. Now, somebody asked me in my previous class, why don't you put the x and the y together? Do you know the answer to that? They're not like terms. Well, it's looking more like standard form. We have the x term, and then the y term, and then the constant term. But there's something else you need to remember about the a in standard form. The a must be positive. I can't start with a negative sign. How can I cancel out a negative sign? And when you divide, you have to divide everything. I'm going to divide everything by -1. Negative divided by a negative makes that 20 positive. Now, this is in standard form. This and this and this are all the same line. If I graph them, it would be exactly the same. So, why do we have all those forms? Well, they tell you different things. This tells you the slope-intercept. This is the easiest graphing form. This tells you, obviously, from its name, a point and a slope. This one, it's not obvious, but this one is, it's easiest to find the x and y intercepts from this form. Okay, next example. Draw a line across my page using my other color. This time I'm going to start in this form. To change from this form to point slope form, you have to be given the point. So I am telling you that I want you to write that same line in point slope form using this point. You have to be given this point to be able to use point. You have to have a point to be able to use point slope form. So when you use point slope form, you have to fill in those three parts. So I'm writing the same line in a different form. So if the slope, what is the slope here? So the slope here is going to be the same because it is two forms for the same line. Then you plug in the x and the y. X goes with x, y goes with y. If the point is positive in the equation, the 2 and the 6 are negative because the equation is backwards due to the negatives in the equation. That's all there is to it. AX plus BY equals C is standard form. If this is what I start with to change to standard form, do you see that the X is on this side? It's supposed to be on this side. But it's on that side. I need to move it to the other side. The other side of what? The other side of the equal sign. The 5 is positive, so the opposite is minus 5x from both sides of the equation. You minus 5x from both sides of the equation, so you can cancel out this 5x. The y is positive, so that's a plus y. And so it's almost in standard form. It looks the same, but you have to remember something about the a. The a cannot be negative. I have to cancel out this negative. To cancel out a negative, you divide by -1. That will change the signs on all of them, not just the 5. This standard form, this point slope form, this y equals mx plus b form are all the same line. It's 3 ways to write the same line. The orange shows where I'm starting. This time I'm starting in standard form. And so to change it to point intercept form, somebody, in this case me, I'm telling you that I want it to go through this point. However, point slope form is not the place to go next, because do I know the slope yet? Can I look at this and tell you what the slope is? No. And so to find the slope, I am going to put this over here and change it to slope intercept form. So that's the y equals mx plus b form. In y equals mx plus b form, I need to start with the y, not the x. So I need to subtract 4x from both sides so that I can cancel out the 4x. Negative 3y equals negative 4x plus 12. And y equals mx plus b form, I need to start with a y, not a 3. How do I cancel out the 3? And so the 3's cancel, the negatives cancel. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Positive divided by a negative. Now do I know what the slope is? And now do I know what the y-intercept is? If you have a point and a slope, you can use the point slope form. What was the slope? So that's going to be 4/3. X minus x, y minus y. If these are positive, they're negative in the formula because they change signs. You should be able to look at this form and tell me that fast what the slope and the y-intercept are. Can you? Can you tell me here that the slope is 4/3 and the y-intercept is -4? If you had a graph paper, could you put the -4 on the graph paper on the y-axis and count the slope of 4/3 and draw the line? In this form, you should be able to tell me that the slope is 4/3 and it goes with the point +6, +4. Could you put the slope, the point 6,4 on the graph and count the 4/3 and draw the line on the graph? And this line and this line on the graph would be the same. Well, if this tells me the slope and the y-intercept, and this tells me a point in a slope, what does that tell me? This is used to find the x-intercept. If I want to find the x-intercept, I let the y be equal to 0. What's 3 times 0? That cancels out. Divide by the 4. The x-intercept is going to be 3. I already know it from the other form, but if I didn't, I can also find the y-intercept pretty easy from this form. So this would be 4x was 0. What's 4 times 0? That cancels out. Divide by the -3, and y-intercept is -4. So you can easily find the x and y-intercept from this form. Now, in just a minute when you do your problem, you will not have all 3 forms in the same problem. You will take slope-intercept and change it to standard form, or standard form and change it to slope-intercept form. Or you might change this form into point-slope or standard form. So you won't have all 3 forms in the same problem. You'll have 2 of the 3 forms on your homework assignment. And in order to use the point-slope form, you have to either be given the point-slope form, or you have to be given a point to put in the point-slope form. Come on.